Hillary Clinton making it official. She wants a recount, and she's teaming up with Green Party nominee Jill Stein. Donald Trump calling it a scam, as Stein's own site admits despite the $6 million she's already raised, a recount is not needed. So who's really paying for this? Here to weigh in, New York Post Washington bureau chief and author of Clinton Inc., Dan Halper is here. Dan, thanks for being here. So who is paying for this?
Well, it appears that Jill Stein will be paying for it, and her donors will actually be paying for it, as well as Hillary Clinton. They announced yesterday that their campaign is going to support the efforts. It looks to me like it's a very clear effort to delegitimize Donald Trump and to delegitimize his presidency. They want to undermine him, much in the same way, incidentally, that George W. Bush, when he came into office, it was through a contentious recount in Florida in 2000, of course, and then a Supreme Court decision. And I wouldn't say, you know, his presidency, I think, suffered in certain ways because the left never really regarded him as their president. I think you're trying to see them rebuild that same sort of effort. Hillary Clinton's lawyers have determined that only 107,000 votes swayed this election if you count Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And here they are trying to make Donald Trump look like he's not the real president of the United States. Well,
and here's Donald Trump's response to that. He's been tweeting about it, calling it a scam. He tweeted, "The Green Party scam to fill up their coffers by asking for impossible recounts is now being joined by the badly defeated and demoralized Dems." He also tweeted, "The Democrats, when they incorrectly thought they were going to win, asked that the election night tabulation be accepted. Not so anymore." And Dan, we've been playing sound all morning of Hillary Clinton saying she was horrified that Donald Trump had suggested he may challenge the election results. And here we are today, and she's joining forces with Jill Stein to challenge the election results.
Right. It's obvious that she thought that she was going to win. She was so cocky in that she thought she was going to win it. She never thought that she would be the one raising questions about the legitimacy of the election. But her own lawyer admits that in the history of recounts in America, we've never had 10,000 votes overturned. So in Michigan, Hillary Clinton lost by about 10,000 votes, a little more, and that's the smallest state, that's the narrowest state, and that margin has never been overturned. So the likelihood of that happening in 3 states is basically none. It's not going to happen, and yet she is trying to do this. She and Jill Stein, they're teaming up to try to do this.
You might want to think twice about donating to this because you really don't know what you're getting for your money. And by the way, she exceeded the original amount, $2.5 million. Now she's asking for $7 million. And in the fine print on her website where she's asking for these donations, it says, quote, "We cannot guarantee a recount will happen in any of these states we are targeting. We can only pledge we will demand recounts in those states."
Right.
Dan?
Which is, of course, why Donald Trump says, look, she's just trying to fill her coffers. And she might just do that. She has raised a ton of money. You know, look, the Democrats, imagine if the Republicans had lost. There would be a lot of infighting between people who thought that we shouldn't have nominated Donald Trump or that they shouldn't have nominated this or whatever. There would have been a lot of infighting. This is to save the Democrats from infighting. There's a lot of people who are saying, you know, we could be blaming each other, and yet if we can all team together to blame Donald Trump, well, then that's a way of preventing, you know, that's a way of sort of keeping the band together rather than sniping at each other. And I think that's what they're trying to do here. But the problem is that these recounts, if they happen and if they occur, as it looks like some at least might, they actually may legitimize Donald Trump more. If the votes are recounted more and people say, well, Donald Trump really is the winner, well, then I think the Democrats might be in worse shape after having undergone these recounts than if they hadn't done them at all.
Interesting way to put it. Dan Halper, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Sandra.